Hello, everyone. Darcenovia here, once again doing another Jedi's Cantina podcast. I know, I delayed the Light of the Jedi, review, but I wanted to take more time to really, you know, write everything down about the book that I liked and disliked and go finishing the audiobook because I'm essentially going through the book twice and I want to make sure I do a good enough review where it justifies giving it the podcast treatment rather than just I just could just do a regular ass video about it. Now, this particular video is the first of many, hopefully, about Star Wars lore. Now, I might get a little political in this stream because, well, honestly, if I just talk about everything in Star Wars and be as apolitical as possible, it will be basically impossible for me to actually have an interesting stream regarding, the Rebel Alliance. Were they revolutionary? Were they not? Now, I could easily end the stream right now and say, no, they're not. They're just a bunch of reactionaries, liberals who, want to bring back a form of government that never worked, but that'd be boring. And nobody wants to hear a simple answer like that. Because since I'm going to be pulling from Canon and Legend sources, mostly Legends, because I'm mostly familiar with the EU, not the new Canon. It is a much more complicated than you would think. Yes, a lot of the Rebel Alliance were mostly liberals. People like Bill Organa and Mal Mothma, they were liberals who didn't like, the rise of fascism in the Republic in the final years of the Clone Wars. Now, the Rebel Alliance, were they revolutionary? To be revolutionary, you have to have a desire to completely overturn the system and replace it with something new. And if I had to be real, I think the Empire were more revolutionary in a lot of ways than the Rebel Alliance because they had a different form of government than the Republic. And even though fascism, I know that's a complicated thing, I'll probably have to get into much later, but fascism is a revolutionary ideology, whether we want to admit it or not. It is, not completely without some revolution because it is a new system, of government. Han Solo. This isn't about Han Solo as a character. He is an anarchist, but I'm talking about the Rebel Alliance as a whole. Now, there were more radical elements in the Rebel Alliance, whether it's in canon or in legends. But they were eventually phased out, and the liberal wing of the Rebel Alliance won out over the radical elements. Because let's be real, most of the Rebel Alliance consisted of humans. And a lot of the alien species did not join the Rebel Alliance until after the destruction of the first Death Star. And let's be real, did things really change after they overthrew the Empire after Return of the Jedi? I'll get into that in detail in a future video, but the kind of government that the Rebel Alliance wanted to install was not a new government at all. And if we're going to talk about if they were revolutionary or not, what kind of government did they want to actually replace the Empire with? Because if you know anything about canon or legends, you will know that the Republic was full of corruption. That the Republic was basically, on the whims of corporations, like the Trade Federation. There was nothing that was really getting done. The Republic wasn't doing anything for the people. And in a way, the Republic, was a neoliberal system. in the twilight years of the Republic. Now, I'm talking about the Republic in the prequels. The Republic, in the Old Republic era in Legends, you know, it's hard to say. I do think they were a, you know, capitalist, system, just like they were later in the timeline, but they were more like you would see like America, was during, the late 1930s, late 1960s. For me, when it comes to the Republic, after the defeat of the Sith, like, you know, after the fall of the Soviet Union, became, weak and corrupt, more so with time. Of course, I'm not going to get into America here, but there is some similarities to the Republic and the United States in many aspects. Now, is the Republic fascist? Was it fascist? I do think there were parts of the old Republic, that were fascists during the times, between, Revan and all the way before, the sorry, with the Brotherhood of Darkness. But I don't think the Republic really was completely fascist until the final years of the Republic. And the reason I'm getting into this is the Rebel Alliance, the kind of government they wanted to install is the same kind of government that has not worked and has gone through periodic, crises that was unable to, handle. The Republic nearly collapsed multiple times before the events of the prequels. The Republic never, did anything for the people. And the kind of system that the Rebel Alliance sought to replace the Empire with was not a new system. It was an old system. Now, let's be real. George Lucas is a liberal. And of course, you're not going to see George Lucas, advocate for the overthrow of capitalism in Star Wars. That's just not how it works. But the Rebel Alliance as a whole is not revolutionary. Yes, they were based off the Viet Cong, but the Viet Cong, they were revolutionary. Unlike the Rebel Alliance, they were protecting and their country from an imperialist invader, and the Viet Cong sought to overthrow the existing capitalist order with a new one. The Rebel Alliance never actually succeeded, long term, because you replace the fascist government, the empire, with a liberal government that was pretty much the same as the, old government. It was basically the status quo was just restored. That's all it was, at the end of the day with the New Republic. Well, the Empire and Legends I'd have to do is should get its own stream sometime. Yeah, but what causes them to collapse? Because I think, and I'm mostly using the movies here, I don't like the sequel trilogy, but why did the Empire collapse in canon? Because the Rebel Alliance never actually created a new government. So the problems of the old government, still existed. The corruption, the not doing anything for the people, and not, of course, I'd say this more applies to canon than Legends, not doing anything about the imperial sympathizers in the New Republic government. Because there were people in canon sources that were sympathetic to the Empire and want the Republic to incorporate aspects of the Empire. And if I have to be real, the New Republic was just not equipped to deal with the crisis that the Old Republic, was dealing with. Because the Old Republic that the Rebel Alliance sought to, bring back was a republic that was corrupt and fell to fascism. Now, was the New Republic fascist in Legends? No, I don't think so. It was ineffective. It wasn't able to deal with the threats of the Yuuzhan Vong. The Boffins, I don't know anything about them in canon, but in Legends, the Boffins played a huge role in the victory against the Empire in Endor. And they had their own skeletons in the closet, and they basically helped with a genocide that almost killed an entire species in the times before the Old Republic collapsed. So you still have people, that would have been that weren't really affected by the Empire that supported the New Republic because, whatever, they weren't affected either way. The New Republic, is not a New Republic at all. Could it be really new if the system that the Rebel Alliance wanted to, restore is the exact same? So, in a way, the Rebel Alliance weren't revolutionaries. They were counter-revolutionaries. Of course, if you ignore everything that was established in both canon and Legends, yeah, you can interpret the Rebel Alliance as being revolutionary, but that's not how things work, unfortunately. With rebels in existence and all the other factors, it's undeniable that the Rebel Alliance were not really revolutionary at all. And the actual revolutionary aspects of the Rebel Alliance were portrayed as a bunch of crazy people. In Rogue One, Saw Gerrera was portrayed as some crazy extremists. And I think that is the thing with current canon. Of course, I would say Legends, but canon more because canon's current. Anything that goes against the liberal order is portrayed as incorrect, and it's not correct to do this and this and that. Which is why, Saw Gerrera is very popular with leftists on the internet. I know this. Saw Gerrera is probably one of the most, popular, characters in the new canon with leftist Star Wars fans. He really is. Well, yeah. Well, of course, saying that is the equivalent of saying the Nazis would have been better if it weren't for Hitler and all these other people. Yeah, there were fascist sympathizers in the New Republican canon that, liked aspects of the Empire, but didn't like the Vader and Palpatine because they felt, if it weren't for those people, it would have been wonderful. And that's not true. And if you think about it in a way, majority of the people that suffered under the Empire were people in the outer world, like the Old Republic before it. But unlike the Old Republic, the Empire is basically not, afraid to showcase they don't care about these people and they'll exploit them for their resources. Ironic, just like what America is doing in the real world. Now, a lot of the people that were scared of the Empire's rise were mostly people in the inner world systems, like Bill Organa. He wasn't going to be affected that much by the Empire's rise, really. And same thing with Mon Mothma because of their positions in galactic society. They would have been fine. It's the outer systems that are the most affected by the Empire. And don't you find it ironic that most of the fighting in the Empire against the Empire in Legends, especially in canon, was mostly done by people in the outer worlds. It wasn't the inner worlds didn't do a bulk of the fighting. and those who supported the rebellion were mostly people in privileged positions. Yeah, the parties and you know bloodlines were cringe. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking for that, but there were people that generally supported the empire. The aliens obviously did not because, well, let's be real, aliens know what the empire was truly like and what was like to live under the empire. And I do think the empire is an allegory for the Nazis and all sorts of far right ultra nationalist governments that have existed and currently exist in the real world. The empire wasn't based off like anything other than fascism. Now, where does that leave our main characters, though? Are they revolutionary? Well, let's see. Luke Skywalker, prior to meeting Obi-Wan, was your stereotypical teenager that didn't know anything about politics and didn't want to have anything to do with, the war between the rebellion and the empire. He just wanted to get into the academy to get off Tatooine because, well, I think I would want to get off Tatooine because that place is a shithole. Let's be real though regarding Luke Skywalker. Was he revolutionary? I believe he was because think about this. Now I'm going by legends here when it comes to Luke Skywalker. The way he reinvented the Jedi Order and how he made it a completely different organization than it was under the Old Republic, I would say Luke was a revolutionary in that way. He basically revived a religion and basically revolutionized it. And the Jedi are, unlike the old Jedi of old, actually support slave revolts. And Luke, in his order, supports, the plight of the poor against the powerful. So yeah, I would say Luke is a revolutionary because he did, create a brand new system, unlike, a lot of the other people in the Rebel Alliance. Now, Han, anarchism is a revolutionary ideology, and Han didn't trust any of the government, which I don't blame Han. I know a lot of rightists online will want to claim that Han Solo was a capitalist, but is he really? He may do some trade when he was in his smuggling days, but does that make him a capitalist? He doesn't exploit people. He doesn't, own the means of production. The only property he truly has of his own is the Millennium Falcon. Han is not a capitalist. He's an anarchist. Honestly, if he isn't an anarchist, then he's likely a left libertarian. He is not, a capitalist. Because to be a capitalist, you have to own the means of production. You have to, be an employer if you're a capitalist. And Han Solo doesn't employ anybody or exploit anybody. No, unfortunately. Hey, nice to have you on stream, man. It's an honor. Now, Leia. Is Leia revolutionary? That depends on which canon you follow. I'd say no. Even in Legends, I wouldn't consider Leia a revolutionary. Honestly, I do think she does become more of a left libertarian as she gets older in Legends, but in canon, she's Leia is probably a centrist. She is. She is against fascism, that's for sure. And she's sees the rise of fascism in the New Republic and was one of the first to raise the alarm in canon, but nobody believed her and her reputation was ruined as a result. Leia in canon is not a revolutionary, but she isn't in Legends either, but she's far more of a revolutionary by comparison. So the original trio, yeah, I guess they would be revolutionary to some extent, but I think Luke is the most revolutionary of the three because he actually did, create a brand new system with his new Jedi Order in Legends. Now, the Rebel Alliance as a whole because when the Rebel Alliance did ultimately win in Endor, did they make any lasting change that actually improved the lives of the inhabitants of the galaxy? Yeah, she is still cool. Did they improve the lives of the inhabitants of the galaxy? Now, you could ignore what happens after Return of the Jedi, you know, in both Legends and canon, but it doesn't change the fact that the New Republic, the government that the Rebel Alliance wanted to implement, that is essentially the same government that the Republic was in its twilight years. No, it really didn't enact any lasting change. Now, in canon, we already get some glimpses of the galaxy basically being the same as it was, you know, before the Empire's collapse, if not worse in many aspects. The New Republic's entire existence in the new canon has caused nothing but chaos because they didn't replace, the Empire with a government that actually works better than what came before it. The Empire definitely didn't work for, the aliens of the galaxy, and it certainly didn't, work for anybody but the people in the inner worlds. So, what did the New Republic really accomplished? And canon, it basically gets destroyed about 30 years into its existence by the First Order because they did not take the threat of fascism seriously, and they were annihilated by a fringe group. And I'm going by what I know from the movies because the books and comics, even they don't do a good job on explaining the First Order's rise and how the New Republic would just do nothing. The New Republic not taking a fascist threat seriously is what caused them to be destroyed, by one, super weapon. The New Republic in Legends, despite its problems, was far, far more efficient. It still had a military to defend itself from the Empire, and it still had the ability to defend itself against outside threats. The issue with the New Republic in Legends was, the bureaucracy and the people in the inner systems not taking the threat of the Yuuzhan Vong seriously, which would eventually lead to the Yuuzhan Vong taking Coruscant and severely weakening the New Republic to where in less than 30 years after its existence, it has to reorganize as a new form of government because the New Republic just wasn't efficient enough to actually deal with these threats. The Rebel Alliance's legacy, ultimately, they failed. They failed in their goals. They brought back a government that didn't work. We don't know what will happen later in the new canon, but in Legends, the Galactic Alliance did endure for at least a century before it again was reorganized into another new government. And the Galactic Alliance would eventually, become, something, more efficient anyway. The Galactic Alliance is not perfect. It is, still, a neoliberal state, but it's a far cry from, what the Republic was, a New Republic was. So the Rebel Alliance as a whole, if we're going by the new canon and Legends, they weren't revolutionary. They were reactionary. The New Republic, is exactly what the Republic was, in its twilight years. I mean, if they didn't even replicate the old Republic, during Revan's time. I mean, how the hell did this republic last for 25,000 years? It doesn't make any sense. And I know, this is fiction. I know, you could probably make a government last as long as you want, but seriously, how would an American style democracy last for 25,000 years? It's impossible. According to, you know, a respected historians, empires don't normally last more than 250 years. And let's be real, the republic is an empire. It really is. If we're being objective here, they had a huge chunk of the galaxy, and the Rebel Alliance is essentially would be like I don't know, after America collapses, you know, you have remnants of America wanting to restore the Republic. It's like that's essentially what it was. You can't restore something, you know, and call it revolutionary if nothing fundamentally changes. It'd be like, taking Joe Biden out of office maybe after his 4-year term, if he's still alive in 10 years, and putting him back into office. It's like you cannot change anything with liberalism. Honestly, nothing that would last anyway. The New Republic was barely a step up from the Republic that came before the Rusan reformations and legends. And the New Republic in both legends and canon is not really a step up from the Republic in its twilight years. The best example of the New Republic basically being a reactionary form of government is in Bloodlines. And if we're going by the new canon, it's the best example of the New Republic being reactionary. And it's really sad to say this, but the Rebel Alliance didn't really succeed in the goal that they set out to do. Yeah, they brought back the Republic, but what happened? Depending on which canon you follow, majority of the people that actually fought in the rebellion saw the same government that they wanted to preserve and bring back collapse and get reorganized into something that more resembles the Galactic Empire. So it's kind of sad to say this. The New Republic kind of sucks. The Republic as a whole kind of sucks. And since we live under capitalism, we're not going to have a socialist alternative in Star Wars to challenge the Empire or the Republic at all. So this is capitalism. So unfortunately, we have liberalism versus fascism. And in a way, it makes sense why, Star Wars is essentially a space capitalist, feudalistic hellscape that I wouldn't want to live in, honestly. Anyone that wants to live in Star Wars is insane. Okay, I know. Okay, I'm just being objective here. Okay, I know it's all fiction. I know this. It's all fiction, guys. I know you could do whatever the hell you want in fiction. I know this. Star Wars at the end of the day is a product of capitalism. It's not, you're not going to get the revolutionary, stuff in Star Wars. It's a piece of entertainment at the end of the day. But the best thing you can ignore everything that takes place after Return of the Jedi, and you can make up your own, thing in your mind what you imagine the future of the galaxy being like. Because for me, as much as I love the EU, the galaxy is kind of a fucked up place. Even honestly, even more so after the Empire gets defeated and gets overthrown by a reformist government. Yeah, Star Wars would be a nightmare. It really would be a nightmare. But anyway, if you wanted to take this, if you want to basically pretend nothing happens after Return of the Jedi, you could always imagine that if you just go by the movies themselves and ignore everything other than the movies, You can imagine the Rebel Alliance as being revolutionary. You can imagine the Rebel Alliance, actually not being for, overthrowing the old government and replacing it with another old government, but to build something new and tangible. And if there's one thing the new canon should have done, is do such a thing. But since Star Wars is owned by the biggest capitalist institution on the planet, at least one of them, we don't get a socialist, republic in Star Wars. Instead, we get a neoliberal, borderline fascist government in the New Republic. And the sequels happen fast, and I guess the message of the sequel trilogy is there will always be a war between liberalism versus fascism. I don't know. I know this is not meant to be taken seriously, this stream. I don't even know why I did this stream to begin with. The Rebel Alliance, I could have probably ended this in the first minute saying, no, they're not revolutionary. And I ended up talking about why the New Republic failed. And, well, there's no point in me doing that stream because I just gave the answer. The Rebel Alliance, as far as I'm concerned, is not revolutionary. They're just a bunch of privileged liberals that were uncomfortable with the rise of fascism and did not think that maybe the system that they support is what created these conditions to begin with. But that's a topic for another stream because, well, I've run out of things to say and I don't want to basically waste a particular topic I want to talk about in a future stream. Oh yeah, I agree. Fascism is Satan. Yeah, there's always room for socialism, but Star Wars just hasn't given us that. We want socialism. You're going to have to go for Star Trek. Anyway, guys, I don't know. This stream turned out better than I expected. For those of you who are watching it after the fact, thank you for watching the stream. Hopefully, I'll come up with something much better than this. I don't think it's bad for my first lore stream. Anyway, for those of you who are following Ewoks Unhinged, B-Level is doing a interview with Luna today. Make sure you watch that because this is going to lead to something big for Ewoks Unhinged. I could feel it. May the Force be with you all. Stay safe. Wear a mask and do not be an asshole.